responding to a theoretically justified framework. Uh, so obviously, in addition to proving that the theoretically justified framework flows your way, or i.e. rather that whatever theory justifications are given for the framework are actual reasons to not have the framework, there is the approach of saying theoretically justified frameworks are not allowed in the debate space in the first place. Right? That's the Sam Matthews versus Bob Overing article you're referencing on the head-to-head. Uh, Additionally, there's the approach that combines specific interps by saying you can't have TJFs if you also justify your framework philosophically. I think that those interps that combine the two are probably the strongest, and those are the ones we definitely need to have written and the ones we should feel most comfortable practicing. Regardless, though, when a TJF is read, we should be able to respond on the line by line. So this is a great drill to practice that. So I'm going to read a theoretically justified framework, set your timer for 4 minutes, and then respond to it, and then we'll see how you do.
That's fine. Yeah.
Cool. Ready? I value morality. Ought is defined as maximizing well-being. Harris. If ought means anything, it must translate into a concern about the experience of beings. To say that we ought to treat children with kindness seems identical to saying that everyone will tend to be better off if we do. No one can ignore the link between morality and human well-being. End quote. Textually, for this interp, A point is the resolution doesn't specify an actor, so it's the only logical interp to define ought as an obligation without an actor is incoherent. B point is I'm apt, so I get the benefit of defining terms for the round. He gets the benefit of longer speeches and the ability to adapt the AC. C point is if a definition is best for debate, we ought to use it because each word has multiple meanings, so there's no way to tell which definition is right, rather just which definition is best. For my definition, theoretically, one topic education. Util forces us to talk about what actually happens in the real world because we have to use empirics and analyze the consequences of our actions. This promotes topic education because we have to research the effects of actions and research how these effects will come about, thus learning more about the topic in general. Topic education, key to education, because if we use it, in the real world to talk about current topics. Also, key to ground. Debater doesn't just have to win the framework to win, but must win the contention level, meaning more ground for both of us. Ground, key to fairness, because it forms the arguments we make. 2, exclusion. Util, least exclusive, because A, it's the easiest to understand. Most benefits equals a win. B, it doesn't require access to private sites such as JSOURCE. C, it's largely influenced by weighing, which is unconstrained by resources. Exclusion comes first because we ought to maximize opportunities for people to join the activity before we can debate about their experience, and people wouldn't compete if debate was unfair, and education is the only reason debate gets school funding. Topicality interps have to have a counter definition. It's key to stable ground. Otherwise, we won't even know what their interp is. So take 4 minutes of prep time, and then let's see how you did. I'm ready whenever you are.
Merriam-Webster defines ought as used to express obligation. Prefer this definition because it's most commonly used since the first definition on the dictionary. Common usage is the basic term to determine theoretical legitimacy, to definitional legitimacy, because the word gets definition by how many times it's used on Harris evidence. 1, the phrase ought. When this is true, then the phrase ought to maximize the expected well-being be vacuous, because this would simply mean that we would maximize expected well-being to maximize expected well-being, which is nonsensical. Second, Harris gives an example of we ought to save a child. However, phrases like we ought to not torture someone also makes sense. However, that doesn't require utilitarian context, because when we're not torture might lead to some better consequences. However, deontology rules prohibit us from torturing. Your A point that resolution specify actor when it's non sequitur. That's non sequitur because someone has to maximize expected well-being anyway. Because which means that ought still means an obligation. Simply means a utilitarian obligation. Someone is still carrying out an obligation. It's not unique. The basic point is that your app, whether it's presumed that app is being app is harder. The ace point that I did not get 3NR, which means that it's planar. I did not get 3NR, which means that Twitter gets to get to spin off new arguments. Have to be both forward looking and backward looking. The basic point, that what they are is not that hard. You can simply introduce new layers, and you're able to respond to previous layers. Second, this allows for abuse of interps because this just gives the affirmative to choose whatever interp they want simply because they're app, which means that the affirmative wins every single round because it was simply for choose the interps that are most preferable to the affirmative. The C, I can see the C somewhere. However, all the reasons why you prefer my definition also applies. On your first argument, topic education one turn, you limit topic education. You limit the definition of ought to util, which means that we only get a portion of the topic education we could have. However, we need to explore the different aspects of topic education. Second, topic education is inevitable. We learn about topic we're using whatever framework we use, except for reading theory or another framework. second argument is that heated ground. There's no warrant to this claim because we have to win both the contender level and framework level for all the different frameworks. This is not the spawn exclusion. All these arguments are non-unique. It explains that it's easy to understand why that's an empirical claim without an empirical warrant. Second, that's not unique. A frame such as Dayon is easy to understand. You can understand in terms of side effects. The piece explains that not by private sites like JSTOR. One, this is BS. Lots of utilitarian literature and philosophical literature needs private sites. Second, there's plenty of public sites. There's plenty of public sites that allow for other frames. There's explains that the logic input by Wayne one. I was trying this argument. Util is worse for exclusion because it involves lots of research because you have to continuously cut cards in order to prep for util. So even if you're able to enter the activity, you'll never be able to succeed at activity, which means that the top debaters will remain very top and the bottom debaters cannot rise. That always because it's based on out of round. You actually have to research. There'll be no incentive for debaters to join if they know that they can't even succeed. However, they still might try. They still have to try it in round because of weighing mechanisms. Second is non-unique because you have to weigh on their other frameworks as well.
How long is that?
325.
So I think had you gone a little bit slower, you could have potentially even given that in 3 minutes. In terms of a redo, our goal should be able to do that in between 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Sure. Wait, let me pull up. Okay, yeah.
Couple of key arguments you're missing. One is that you can also justify the common usage argument via the online etymology dictionary argument that the OED defines as an obligation.
Oh, I didn't have that. So.
Right, but you should just have it memorized.
Oh, sure. Okay, sure. That's fine.
Yeah, it's a fairly straightforward argument. The second is you can draw a link from common usage to predictability. That the most commonly used definitions are the most predictable in the debate sphere. And then you can say this means there's a predictability disad to defining ought as util.
Okay.
You could also make an empirical claim without an empirical warrant, which would just be no one defines ought as util.
Yeah, except for Stanley Harris, I guess,
And Loyola.
yeah.
Right, but that's, not a particularly good argument, but it's something you could make.
Sure.
That means if you make if you get access to the predictability claim, you now have theoretical offense you can weigh against his theoretical offense with.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I think also.
Oh yeah, I thought definitional legitimacy was theoretical offense. Yeah, that's
Yeah. I think. Yeah, I think you were good on everything else. I think maybe longer explanation of the ground argument that I understand what you're saying and it's true, but maybe like a sentence or two more would have been useful there because you sort of go through it really fast.
Okay.
Right? Like you need to explain that it's not the case that you get more ground if you get to respond to both the framework and offense. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just not a question of who gets more ground.
Right.
It's a question of who gets the best ground.
Sure.
You could also make claims like util is a descriptive truth about a state of affairs. So if one side's on the right side of the state of affairs debate, then they'll always win, which means that util gives best quality of ground to one debater. Makes sense?
Yeah.
You could also make arguments that there's other forums to learn util debate or cost-benefit debate, i.e., you could learn it in college classes. You could learn it via risk analysis. But this is a unique forum to learn philosophy or definitional debate.
I don't understand why they wouldn't just not use that, like you could learn philosophy in college or something.
Well, you should say this is a unique forum to debate philosophy.
Oh, sure.
To discuss the pros and cons of a philosophical system.
Sure.
Additionally, not everyone learns philosophy in college, but almost everyone learns how to do cost-benefit analysis. You weigh out the pros and the cons for something. At least once in your life.
Sure.
Cool. So this redo needs to be a lot shorter, 45 seconds shorter at least, and it needs to include all the arguments that it missed. Other than that, I think the arguments you did get were good. Any questions?
No, I'm good.